Good morning. It is Monday here in Portugal and everywhere else as well. This is potentially a very big week for me, for us as a company. It's looking likely that I will be able to get dates for when I can fly to California and try samples of our new formulation. It's been a month already in the making. If you haven't worked in manufacturing or like with manufacturers before, it's a very slow process. Unless you're like a big player, and I think it can go a little bit quicker if you have sort of priority. But yeah, it's super slow and very hard to not get frustrated in the process. But we are finally there. I am feeling very good about the ingredients that we've found and the partner that we have now. And so, yes, hopefully later this week I will be able to book flights to California, where our new manufacturer is. And yeah, that's like basically the entire company rests on obviously us getting back product in stock. So I'm very excited about that. I'm also flying home to Sweden tomorrow. I'm gonna spend some time with my family, and so I'll fly out to California from Sweden. And then I wanted to share, like I get asked quite a lot actually about like advice from younger people on how to build a brand like this. And I always find it kind of funny because I'm not that good at it. Like it's pretty much the first time I build a consumer facing brand. But obviously we've done some things right. So I get that like some people ask. So I'll share like 5 mistakes that I would have probably done differently if I started the brand again today. But first, I'm gonna get one more surf session in right now. So I'm about to head to the beach. It's super foggy, so I have no idea about the waves. But yesterday was like one of the best days we've had, and the conditions are looking similar. So it's probably gonna be good.
Men nu jag kommer snart. No.
So I just booked a flight to California. Oh, finally. I'm actually at the airport right now too. I'm about to fly home to Sweden for a bit, see my family, play some golf, work from there, and then I'm gonna fly out to California in 2 weeks to go to my factory and work with them on a bunch of different samples and like all the improvements that we're making to the formula. So yeah, they confirmed last night that like the ingredients are arriving and everything is set. So yeah, we'll be good to go. I'm super stoked. I also have a few other connections that I want to meet out there, and one of my closest friends lives there as well, so I'll hang out with her. Yeah, just a perfect trip. We're actually making kind of good time right now. Like even if the situation is pretty bad, still with being out of stock for so long, considering the situation, it's actually like we're making pretty good progress right now. And with some luck, I think we'll end up being out of stock for just over 3 months, which is like, again, super bad, but it can easily, like time flies with manufacturing. So, yeah, very stoked that we got this booked. And yeah, soon I'll be in California and filming, visiting the factory and everything. So So I've been trying to think of mistakes or sort of things that I would have done differently if I started my brand today. And if I'm being quite honest, I haven't done or made that many big mistakes so far. Obviously, have had a bunch of challenges, but like that is inherent to building a company. You can't really escape that. But I did think of basically five mistakes that, yeah, five things that I could have done differently that would have probably led to faster success, bigger success so far. And the reason I want to talk about the mistakes rather than what we did well, because we did a bunch of things right, I would say, is just you learn more from the mistakes. Like and the mistakes probably apply more generally, like broadly, to different businesses compared to like what we did right, I think. So the first mistake is actually applies to all businesses, I would say, and it's about not realizing what game you are actually playing, because a lot of industries look one way from the outside, especially if you don't have much experience in that industry. It looks like one thing, but it's actually something else. So I'll give you the example from our business. And I wasn't completely naive to this, but you know, the supplements industry is obviously so saturated. Like, it's probably one of the most competitive spaces you can go into. And so I think a lot of people, including myself, think that it's about like you're getting into the supplements industry, like you're basically offering a product, and that product is what the business is about. And that's true to a degree. Like I've said this before, I'm very happy that we have such a unique and differentiated product. I honestly would never go into this space without that, you know. But with that said, like having a unique product really helps, and like I think it's necessary to build a really big business in this space. But really, the thing that most people don't realize about the supplements industry is that it's really a game of distribution and brand. So you're thinking of your specific product that you're offering, but like really the game is all in the distribution. So basically building out sort of hard distribution, as in like retail, you know, Amazon, your website, everything, like what you're actually, like how you're actually delivering your product. But then of course it's a lot about attention as well. One way to get attention is through paid ads. Another is through content. And this is actually like the second. So that was the first mistake, is like, even if I had some sort of sense that, okay, I get it, like it's going to be mostly about distribution, I didn't fully realize like or understand how much it's how much the game is about figuring out how to build distribution for your products. So that was the first mistake. But then the second mistake has to do with the distribution part, and it's not really a mistake in the execution of building this brand in these last few months and like last year or so. It's more of I would say it's more of a mistake in the last 5-10 years of my life. It's that I didn't have a big audience. I never built, or like I never invested in building a big personal brand. Just imagine if I had a big personal brand in like natural fitness and health and or surfing and all of these other activities, or like entrepreneurship related. Basically what I'm doing now with this content. So, you know, it's never too late to start, but like retrospectively, now that I have like real life experience of like cost of acquisition, basically, of like how hard it is, how expensive it is to get customers. I'm just seeing all these other founders who have, you know, hundreds of thousands of followers, and if the product is aligned with the audience, it's a huge advantage. It's just so big. related to this, like obviously I was aware that I didn't have a big audience before this. I do have a relatively strong network, so I actually had a couple of different friends that have like pretty much like 1 million followers each, and I was discussing potential partnerships with them. That also did not end up coming to fruition, which, you know, that was, I'm not sure if I would have done it differently, because it was about, you know, like how much equity do you give away for something like that. But still, like maybe I should have given away quite a lot of equity to someone just to get that head start of like a lot of attention straight from day one, essentially. Like, so basically, if you're thinking about starting a brand like this, like truly start building an audience around it today. It's so cliche to say this at like in 2025, but yeah, it's a huge advantage. I'm still, honestly, for myself, I'm still undecided because like I don't have much, I obviously don't have an inclination towards doing that stuff. I don't have much talent for it. I don't enjoy it most of the time. And so I really don't have an unfair advantage in that space. And so one part of me just thinks like, okay, let's just focus on paid acquisition, because I'm pretty good at that. And then just take the hit of like having that disadvantage of not getting all those free, you know, millions of views of free attention, essentially. I don't know, but like if I were to like identify one mistake, it's just very obvious how useful it would have been to have a big audience before we started. So number 3 is actually rushing the product. This is also I'm not necessarily sure I would have done anything differently, because there is also such a thing as launching too late. I'm sure you're familiar with this concept of like if you're completely happy with your product, you launch too late. And I think that's true. Like, I think when we launched, it was definitely the right decision. But what I did actually realize is I failed on a different aspect related to this. Something that I call bending reality. And this is like an ability that every strong entrepreneur has. And I have it too, but I sometimes sort of forget because you have to like push and keep reminding yourself. And that is the ability to basically reduce the amount of time that things take. It's really that simple, because normal people live like normal lives. It's like a pace that people work and live by. And a lot of the time, there is really no reason why something that would take 3 weeks couldn't take 2 days, you know. There are so many examples of this, where you have to basically, as a founder, you have to be a pain in the ass to people a lot of the time, or just like figure out ways to push that timeline. And you know, this is how some entrepreneurs achieve so incredibly much in just a short amount of time. Is just like how they're able to bend reality. That's my phrase for it. So that's what I honestly failed at while we were developing the product. The specific example I have of this is that like I spent almost a year, since I'm based in Europe and the manufacturing is based in the US. I spent pretty much like a year sending samples back and forth and like waiting for those samples to go through customs in Portugal, where I live. And some of the time it took like almost a month each time they were sending samples. And so like I basically created this pressure after, you know, it took like 13-14 months before we launched, and I created this that was a direct result of just like failing to bend reality in the R&D process and like making much faster progress on the product development. And so just compared to now, we are now developing our new formula. And of course I have a better starting point. I know much more, there are much fewer variables. But still, I'm like now flying out in a week and a half to go to California and actually go to my factory and just sit down for hours and hours and try a bunch of different samples and make super quick decisions based on that. So that was a huge mistake, honestly, that we did with the first formulation. Could have probably saved 4 months or something, which would then have given us the time to really nail the product before we launched. Because the result, just coming back to why this was a mistake, is that even though people truly love the idea of our product, way too many or like way too high of a percentage do not enjoy the flavor. So that's what we missed sort of when we developed the product. And that has just created such an uphill battle. And now, thankfully, we are sold out, and so we can sort of focus on the new and improved formula. But yeah, it was created a lot of friction. Like down the line, it just like made the ads harder, it made retention harder. So that was a big mistake that followed from this like lack of sort of bending reality. The fourth mistake had to do with comparing myself to other brands, basically creating any sort of expectation on the outcome of our, like how fast we needed to grow and everything. I have the privilege, but also in some ways the downside of knowing a bunch of founders who are much more successful than me. My investor Justin, just as an example, they started Perfect Keto, and they did over $7 million in their first year in business, in revenue. And so like I have a bunch of those examples of like friends and mentors and stuff like that who just like fully like hit it out of the park. And I don't think it affected me too much, but still there has, like, at least during periods, there has been some aspect of like basically feeling the pressure, just because I know how much potential there is in my product and in our business. There's been this internal, or I guess external pressure to grow as fast, or like to have as good of a start as these other brands or founders that I know. And that just doesn't help in any way, honestly. It just makes you make decisions that are rushed and sort of short-term focused, I would say. For instance, we've had some issues with tracking in our ads, and instead of just accepting that, this might take some time to figure out, and we might not do so well for a month or two in revenue, I just kind of kept the pedal to the metal and overspent, honestly, given that the tracking didn't work. So like the efficiency of the ads and like the cost per acquisition, it didn't really work. So yeah, stuff like that. I think underlying those decisions is just like this pressure of like, oh, I need to start this company as successfully as these other big brands that I know of, like how they started. And it's just stupid. Like, everyone has their own journey. You don't really need to compare to anyone. So that was another mistake of like letting that affect me a little bit. I should not have done that. And then the last fifth mistake that I made was just trying to do too much myself. Honestly, I think this is a classic problem that entrepreneurs have. Just delegation and hiring, like building a team, is pretty much the hardest thing about building a company. And there is a lot of value to being like a Swiss Army knife yourself and not having to pay for everything. And so like I definitely I definitely didn't fail completely at this. Like I would give myself probably a B or a B plus maybe. But there are still some things that I could have just like swallowed my pride and spent some money on to have someone else just fix it for me, you know, or take care of it for me. And yeah, like if you think about it, like when you're growing a brand and like if you're gonna be a multi-million-dollar brand, like yes, with AI and stuff, you can do much more yourself or with a very small team. And I'm actually really excited about that. Like I'm very excited about building in a incredibly like modern, efficient organization around my product. But still, you will not be able to do everything yourself. You will not be as good as the people who are doing it just that thing, you know. And also, why would you want to? Like the biggest lever you can pull, I think, as a business owner, as a founder, is creating systems, building a team, so that you free up enough time for you to be able to think about the big problems and like make the big strategic moves that actually makes the company successful in the long term. That's like the biggest thing. So, I mean, when you're starting out, like in the very beginning, first few months, I think it's kind of inevitable for most people to be a little bit sort of stuck in survival mode, you know? But yeah, this is something that I'm working on actively to just like delegate more, hire a team as soon as possible. I just recently testing now, right now, someone making Instagram content for me. And I just go in and like fix the details, change some things before we post. And that's honestly been incredible. It freed up so much time. And I've had time to breathe and just like, yeah, really work on those big problems that are building over time, that you need to solve in order to get to the next level with your business. Yeah. So those are the mistakes that I could come up with. Feel free to ask any questions in the comments if you're sort of thinking about building a brand or if you're building a brand yourself. Always great to connect. And yeah, I'm in Sweden right now, as you can see over there on the flags. And yeah, we'll be here for a few days or a week and a half or so more to hang with my family, and then I'm gonna fly out to California. So yeah, pretty exciting. I'm hoping for a lot of golf when I'm here. I pretty much only play golf in the summer when I'm in Sweden, and maybe some surf if I can get lucky with a storm coming in. So that's the plan. I'll see you in the next video.